Hello and welcome to Stencil School. I'm Mary Beth Shaw, the founder and one of the owners of StencilGirl Products. As the owner of StencilGirl and kind of the face, because I'm in partnership with two silent men. Anyway, I get to teach about stencils, and sometimes that takes me to incredible locations like my recent trip to Switzerland. And today I wanted to do a walkthrough of the journal I made in Switzerland. This may not interest you, so if it doesn't, well, no biggie. Skip it, and I'll see you next time. But for the people who are interested, I want to walk you through the journal, and I also want to tell you something pretty exciting. We are in the midst of my birthday sale on StencilGirl Studio, and that means you get a 20% discount on any of the classes over there, which includes a class called Day Tripping, which is about making travel journals. It's a class I did with my friend Jennifer Armstrong, and she visited me here in St. Louis, and we did journals that are very similar to what we do when we are traveling abroad, or really even anywhere, because I've been making these journals for many years. But enough talking. Let me just say, if you're watching this after July 9th, I'm really sorry, but the sale will be over by then. So I hope, fingers crossed, that y'all get to watch it before then so that you can take advantage of the sale. But let's switch the camera, and then I'll show you the journal I made on the Switzerland trip. All right, here it is, my little Switzerland journal. Okay, so one of the things I like to do when I'm making a travel journal is I like to take advantage of some kind of interesting element for the cover. And in this particular case, I found this map of, it was almost like if you're here in the States, you've probably heard of AAA Auto Club. And apparently there's something like that in Europe, or at least in Switzerland. So it was a map that came like, I don't even remember how it was. I think it was like this originally. And then you opened it up and it went page by page by page. But I didn't want a real long book like that. I wanted just this little like kind of baby book, because this is the size I like. And so I got the idea of folding the map and then opening it to like a gatefold type book. So this is what I made. And of course it's upside down right now. Here is what I made. And the pages. Very easy type book to make. I did not teach this exact format in Day Tripping, in that it's not a gatefold in Day Tripping, but you will easily be able to figure it out, because it's just couldn't be any easier. And one of the things I love so much about this book construction is there's no sewing, because I always get really befuddled when I have to sew, and I'm stabbing myself with the needle. I'm trying to give instructions to my people, and I will mess it up every time. So this is mainly about glue, and you just think it through. So this is my front cover. I had to do some reinforcement on the binding because the paper was falling apart. So I took a piece of masking tape, and I used foil with a stencil on the masking tape, and then when it was ready, I just taped it down there because I thought it looked really cool, and I wanted to have the red sort of theme that's Switzerland. Now this is like it's reminiscent of the Swiss flag. The Swiss flag is obviously a rectangular flag, but it's a red background with the white cross. So I had a few areas I needed to cover up here, and I took some map parts. I added some more map parts where the two pages come together. This is the way you open the book. So then I used some little rubber stamps. They're like push pin rubber stamps to mark a few of the places where we went that were real high points for me of the trip. And that was fun. Jennifer Armstrong gave me the idea for these little rubber stamps. She was doing this in the class we taught, and I was like, oh my God, that's too cool. Well, now here, this is interesting, but this map piece that I put here, these two parts of map came in the original map folder. And what is so interesting is that green writing on there, somebody was going the exact same place we went. And so it was kind of cool to see it on the, the map itself. And they had gone to Basel, which is another place that my husband and I went. So that was kind of cool. All right, well, let's start at the beginning here. We went to Zurich, and as I do with many of my books, I start with collage and watercolor. I gather collage parts, I make collage parts, I do things that seem representative of the area. Zurich is a city, it's a big city, and we visited this museum, this paper museum. That's the logo from that. Their sticker, that was actually over in Basel. And then these are some flowers that I made, the map, some rubber stamping. You get the point. Now, you can see my gluing was not super stellar here. It should probably be turned a little bit this way. So, Victorinox, that's like the Swiss Army knives, right? I wanted one of those, and I got a little baby one. It's about this big, and you know what? Let me see if I can pause this real quick. I believe it's in my purse. Fingers crossed. These Swiss knives are just so cool. They have them in all colors these days with all sorts of themes, and you can get a front and a back that are different colors. You can get them engraved. It is just too cool. Mine was not in my purse as I thought, so I'm going to have to take a picture of it and pop it into the video so you can see it. When we were in Zurich, and my husband and I typically go on these trips a few days early because I like to recover from my jet lag before my students get there, and that was what we were doing. So we were walking around Zurich and checking it all out, and I found this church called Fraumünster, and this church with a former convent was founded in 853 AD. So, oh my gosh, I was simply enchanted with this church because it has Chagall stained glass windows, and it also had these beautiful frescoes that were, they were contemporary. They were not old, but I say contemporary meaning the last 100 years, but they were just so unbelievable. I felt, I don't know, in my soul, I sort of felt deeply touched by them. But I even went to church there on Sunday. It was all in German, so I had no idea what they were saying. But with a couple of my friends, we went over there to church, and it was a really lovely experience. All right, turning the page. These are just things that I gathered, a part of a bag. Here's a picture of a real Edelweiss with kind of a graphic depiction of an Edelweiss. This is some tape that I got at the Landsmuseum in Zurich. It's like craft type tape with this great design on it that I just loved. And then of course I went to the Caran d'Ache store because that's it. These Caran d'Ache products are from Switzerland, and I had to go in there and drool all over them. And I got a few, not a lot, because I already own some for one thing, but also they are very, very expensive. I've had this old vintage book that I brought with me on the trip, When to Go Abroad. And so every time you see a vintage part in here, it's part of that book that I shared with my students also, because I like for everybody to have something that they enjoy and something that is relevant to what we are doing. after we started the true trip, we went to Lucerne, which is called Luzerne, and it was rainy, and that was okay. We got to make some art, and it didn't stop us from doing anything, but I just made a little tip-in about the rain there. I did this on Yupo paper, and it just kind of turned out looking like rain. Napkins are something I adore in my work, and the students started collecting different types of napkins, and then we would all share, because there were I had 12 students in my class, and there's usually about 12 napkins in a package, so it was so cool and so fun to share that. And clocks will recur in this journal because, Swiss clocks. And I gotta say, everything runs like clockwork over in Switzerland. It's amazing, right? All right, Pilatus in Lucerne. It's a mountain that is just gorgeous, extraordinary. You take a cogwheel train to go up there. We used our Swiss travel pass, but I don't know, there might have been an extra charge to go up there. So cool. This is a picture I took with and printed out on my little Sprocket printer. This is something I cut out of Pilatus, and I wrote here mountains or water, because it did it depended on what the day was and the sun, but it was very, very fascinating. And flowers. This was the beginning of the flower show that is just out there in just all the land in Switzerland. It's like you are hiking in a field, a valley, and it'll be all flowers growing, wildflowers, alpine flowers. I became quite obsessed, I've got to say. So after we were in Lucerne and did some things there, we went to Mürren, but I think we did Mount Riggy's out of Lucerne, and this is another photo that I had taken, there's a glare on it, and printed with my Sprocket. And then I used stencils and watercolor here and there. This travel diary is a section from that vintage book that was in the back, and I just thought that was so cool. I very much wanted to use a little part of it in my journal. And I also cut out Pilatus from a very old travel guide that I found. And again, I brought these things on the trip with me. Some of them I scanned and I put them in a Google Drive so my students could print things in advance that they might want to use, because if you only have one piece of a vintage map, you obviously all can't use it. So it was fun to have people being able to share elements. All right, these were the little Caran d'Ache crayons I got. I got the waxy ones. You will probably see them turn up in future projects just because I like them so much, and they resist. So you can do a lot of interesting techniques. See this background here, this green? That is the crayon resisting the watercolor, which just lovely, lovely, lovely. And this is some of that PET tape that I like so much. I think I had bought it from Seth after he sells it. Super cool. So I really like this page a lot. I don't often do flower stuff, but oh my gosh, I've got the bug now. You'll see this window theme recurring here, and then over here, remember? I was really obsessed with windows and this outside-inside theme, and I found it popping up in my work. Like this part underneath is something I sketched, and it was just a depiction of some mountains and sky and ground with the flowers, the alpine flowers, and then I put the window on top of it. I don't know, it just is something that seemed important to me. Zoomstein. Well, we found an art store in Lucerne because that's how we are. Oh, OMG. You cannot imagine 12 artists in an art store at the same time, all going just absolutely bonkers over the stuff. So that was what this page is about, being in Zoomstein. And we found these placemats that are so cool. They're so funky. And I later found a bandana with the same pattern on it. I just loved it. And the Blue Walk, that's the tour group that I work for. I love the Blue Walk. Check out their website. Check out my offerings for next year. It's just too fun for words. They do art walk vacations, and making art and walking are just two of my favorite things in the world. So it's kind of made for me. And we usually have about 12 to 15 students, and it is absolutely delightful. All right, the next page. This is not the goat we saw. We saw an ibex, I-B-E-X. It was this crazy thing. It was, I guess it's on Riggy, that mountain. It was big, it had huge horns, and it was just so cool. But I found this little picture of a goat, and it made me think of it, and some other collage parts. And chocolate, 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 please. So these are all memories of Switzerland for me. And these I did some fussy cutting of these little thistle plants because they reminded me of Switzerland. These are some parts from a placemat that was at our plate one morning for breakfast. Naturally, we all put it in our book because that's how we are. And the next page, more. This woman does not look like me, but I just felt like it was me looking with awe at Switzerland, looking at the cows and the chalets and the cities. And then I made these little tip-ins of my flower pictures that I printed with my sprocket. I did them all perfect except for that one, which is upside down, but you know what? I'm not a machine. So anyway, this is Edelweiss that I found out in the wild, which was, I'm so glad I got to see it real Edelweiss rather than just relying on printed pictures of it. You can see I used this one stencil kind of throughout the book. I don't know why. It just felt like Switzerland to me. I can't even say why. And then the last page is me and John. Grand Tour of Switzerland, a collage part. This was a cutout I did from all these different flags that we saw in our walking about. And then this is a library card I glued on the back. And inside here, I have a lot of little business cards that I wanted to use to remember, you know, the places we had been. And then this is a little patch of an Edelweiss. So that turned out to be just the perfect accent for that page. So, like all my journals, this one just becomes precious to me. We were talking about this as the class was going forward, and everybody was saying, like, I mean, this sounds kind of, I don't know, gruesome or whatever, but like if their house caught on fire, the first thing they would do is grab all their journals. Well, the first thing I would do is grab my cats, and the second thing is I'd probably grab my journals because they are very precious to me. They take me right back to the moment, and they're so important. In addition to making art and having community, I just love everything about it. So I hope you enjoyed the little flip through here, and it inspires you to make a journal of your own, whether you're day tripping in your own town, going on a trip here in the United States, or going further afield. Whatever it is, I hope you reach out and tell us about it, and maybe you'll use some stencils. Who knows? Thank you so much for watching and being a fan of Stencil Girl. We appreciate you. Take care.